Halito, and welcome to Native Chalk Talk, a podcast by natives for all. Here we're keeping our Native ancestors' stories and history alive, while also sharing with you our Native culture, traditions, and more. I'm Rachel Youngman, a Choctaw originally from Anadarko, Oklahoma. I hope you'll enjoy this journey with me as we learn from our Native American guests. And I hope you'll do me a favor. Feel free to like and share these episodes. I so appreciate it. Yakuki.
I am more than a craftsman.
I'm more than an outdoorsman.
I am more than a maker.
I am more than a firefighter.
More than a teacher.
Than a student.
Than a leader.
A singer.
A healer.
I am more than a champion.
More than a princess.
I am more than a warrior.
More than a Tushka.
More than a storyteller.
More than a protector.
Than a graduate. A business owner.
An athlete.
A pastor.
Choctaw, Ilfinachili.
Choctaw Elefanachili.
Chata Elefanachili.
I am Choctaw proud.
I am Choctaw proud.
I am Choctaw proud.
Choctaw proud.
Choctaw proud.
I am Choctaw proud.
We are the Choctaw Nation, and together we're more.
Our Choctaw hymns embody both a beautiful and harrowing story. Rooted in the 19th century, these hymns were adapted from Christian traditions introduced by missionaries. Sung in the Choctaw language, these hymns preserve a vital link to our ancestors and symbolize resilience and faith in the enduring spirit of the Choctaw Nation. I spent an incredibly precious day with my guest Paula Carney and her daughter Cheryl Weeden, both Choctaw, as I attended their church and enjoyed the Choctaw hymns that were sung. I also sang a couple myself while afterwards recording their stories, following the service and a wonderful Choctaw meal. I walked away from this day blessed, and I hope you will too, after listening to these women talk all things ancestral stories and the history of our beloved Choctaw hymns. It is said that as our ancestors walked the hundreds of miles on the Trail of Tears from their homelands to Indian Territory during the removal, that singing could be heard echoing through the trees. Those near enough to hear it may have assumed a nearby church service was taking place. What they probably didn't know was that those singers, young, old, feeble, strong, were forced to walk in frigid weather until some succumbed to the cold or illness or were killed by soldiers. And yet, despite their anguish, they sang to their Creator, sometimes songs of sorrow and sometimes songs of hope and praise. A while back, while doing some research, I ran across a written interview with an African American woman named Mary Franklin Cole from the Oklahoma and Indian Territory Indian and Pioneer Historical Collection that took place on January 11th, 1938. Mary was born in Perryville, Oklahoma, in the Choctaw Nation, and at the time of the interview, she lived in Hartshorn, Oklahoma. The interview was called Choctaw Church Life, and the words were faded in places, so I had to make a best guess in certain instances. But what I liked about her interview was that Mary gave us a glimpse of her perspective on attending Choctaw churches when she was young. And I think this sets the scene nicely of the services and gatherings of which these hymns were sung. Here are portions of Mary's interview. Being a freed slave, I was allowed to go to the same churches with the Choctaws, and I observed their customs firsthand. I see now that their methods of worship were peculiar and different from white people's customs, though I didn't know anything else then. I was born in Choctaw Nation 80 years ago in Perryville, west of McAllister. My parents were slaves. I was too, of course, but was too young to work before freedom. Our master was a Choctaw named Kachapi. When I was 12, we moved, this time about 3 miles north of Scullyville, and it is there that I remember going to church first. The church house was a plank building, unpainted, about 20 by 30. Anyway, it would hold something like 50 people, and there was a brush arbor outside that would hold 100 or more. This brush arbor was used when the house got crowded and was always in warm weather. This church, I understand, was right in Scullyville. Now, this was a Choctaw church, but we colored people were allowed to attend services with them. Then later, when the memberships grew so large that there were larger crowds, the colored members were required to hold their services at a different time than the Indians, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As a rule, the Choctaws were dressed very commonly. The women wore long dresses made of gingham or calico. They wore shawls over their shoulders and often had red handkerchiefs tied around their heads. The men wore cowboy hats, usually white, and nearly always put colorful ribbons of feathers in them. Some of them wore a shirt of calico made like a coat with a big ruffled cape at the neck. Their trousers were made of blue broadcloth, sometimes of dressed deerskin. Some wore moccasins, some cowboy-style boots. Often an Indian would come to church wearing spurs with little bells on them. The church I am telling you about was Methodist. I remember one of the Choctaw ministers who used to preach there often. His name was Willis Folsom. The Indians held services about the same way everyone does now, with singing and preaching and prayer, except that it was all done in the Choctaw language. They had Sunday school too, with different classes for the different ages. If they were not having a camp meeting, people went home for dinner, then came back for night services. Camp meetings were held once a month, and the Indians and colored people came from miles around to attend. They would come Saturday night and stay until Monday morning, eating all their meals right there on the church grounds and holding 3 services a day. They cooked their food there, put it on one long table, and all ate together. Most of the Choctaws in the western part of the Choctaw Nation were Baptists. The school district called High Hill is about 2 miles south of Alderson, where their main church was. And when they had camp meetings there, Indians and colored people came from all over the Choctaw Nation. I have attended camp meetings at High Hill many a time, traveling in a wagon with other colored folks clear from Scullyville. At one camp meeting at High Hill, we had at least 200 present Indians and colored folks from Jack Fork, Brazil, Scullyville, Sandboys, and even a few from Tushkahoma. And there was a delegation from out in Wichita country. Then she goes on to say she thinks this was in 1900 or 1901. She then talks about a camp meeting at High Hill. And she said, many of the Wichitas showed up. We called them the Wild Bunch. About 100 of them planned to come, but 2/3 of them refused to ride the train. You see, some of them had never ridden on a train before. They held services 3 times a day, at 11 in the morning, at 3 in the afternoon, and at night. The Indians were deeply religious, friendly, and hospitable. There was plenty to eat for everyone. We cooked mostly on stoves set up under the arbors, but some of it was done on fires. There was cake and pie and most anything you could think of, and we had beef and pork and cornbread and biscuits. One little boy who had come with the Wichitas wouldn't eat any cake or pie or drink the coffee. He didn't seem to know how. We had some tomfuller, the old Indian dish made from soaked corn, and I gave the little boy some of that. He lit right into it and ate 3 bowls full. We had preaching and praying and singing all in Choctaw, and some of the more important Indians made speeches. One of the Wichitas, an old gray-haired fellow, made a long talk. We have not come to rob or steal, but to extend you the right hand of fellowship. He was a wild-looking figure. He had on leather leggings and moccasins, a calico shirt and a vest, but no trousers, and his hair was long down to his shoulders. Monday morning, when the Wichitas started to leave, everyone shook hands with them, and the Wichita women got hysterical and began to shout and dance. The Choctaws took the Wichitas to McAllister. There they boarded the train for the reservation. I thought this was an interesting take on the hospitality and community of the Choctaw. As you can tell, they welcomed all, and there was always food and good preaching, singing, and fellowship. As mentioned, I also felt that same hospitality when I visited Grace Christian Fellowship in Colgate, Oklahoma, where Cheryl Weeden's husband Gary is pastor, and Cheryl and her mother Paula lead the Choctaw hymn singing. Some of my family members also attended, and we were all treated with so much love and so many hugs. And the lunch afterwards was wonderful with pashofa, which is a Choctaw and Chickasaw corn soup type of dish, and fry bread and more. So if you're not on YouTube watching this video right now, head on over to see the photos of the meal and videos of the singing and more. We'll be back after this quick break. Are you looking for the perfect gift for your significant other, your bestie, or even yourself? You know you're worth it. Luxury soaps, lotions, and lip balms from Baker's Bar Soapery are 100% Choctaw crafted, and they make the perfect gifts. This work of art is their signature turquoise soap, and it's made to look like Sleeping Beauty turquoise. Do you see this gold veining throughout? And the gold marbling on top? Love it. Next, check out this apple mint custom fragrance oil soap called Say Their Name. And all proceeds go to the missing murdered Indigenous women Choctaw cause. You'll only find this blend made specifically for this soap. And yes, these are made with goat's milk, which leaves your skin feeling soft and supple. So load up on these Choctaw soaps made by Tiffany at Baker's Bar Soapery at thebbsoapery.com. But be sure to get 20% off when you use the code NATIVECHOCTAW, that's all caps, when you spend $25 or more. Treat yourself to the luxury your skin deserves with Baker's Bar Soapery. And now let's take a listen to my visit with Paula and Cheryl. Paula and Cheryl, thank you for having me at Grace to sing Choctaw hymns together. It really was a blessing. I enjoyed meeting you both for the first time when we were all at Disney Plus's Echo premiere. We had all missed the bus to get back to our cars because we were just talking and having fun. And so someone from Disney was kind enough to make sure the parking lot would be open, and they gave us a ride back to our cars. But we were laughing and missing the bus, and I don't know, I just had so much fun getting to know you through that situation. Listeners, Paula and Cheryl also mentored me when I was preparing to sing in the Chickasaw concert called Pa Shaw, written by Chickasaw composer Brandy Berry Benson. And in that concert, I sing Choctaw hymns and do some of the narration in Choctaw. So yakoki to you both for helping me to improve on my diction. So let's discuss more about the hymns as well as your ancestral stories. The hymns we heard and sang at your church were powerful and mean so much more than just your average song. According to the Choctaw Nation's Itifabusa, there were specific songs for hunting, stickball, playing hand games, going to war, songs sung for the safety of loved ones away at war. There were songs a person sang when facing death, and songs sung during sacred dances at the green corn ceremony. One particular song that means so much to me is hymn 112, Nitak Kanima, which is a meditation on death that conveys the words of comfort. And it's believed to have been sung by the Choctaw while they were traveling during the removal, what's now known as the Trail of Tears. What are your favorite hymns and why?
Probably 41. And the reason for it is if it's translated, it just tells about the greatness of God. And Abanopa Chiyama means, just telling God how great He is. And I love it because God is a mighty great God and knows everything. And it also just tells how humble we are in our spirits toward Him because of it, and we see our humble need for Him. That's why.
How about you, Cheryl? What's your favorite?
I like 53. And another story. We were at a women's retreat, and minister there, Sister Ann, they wanted us to sing it, sing a song, so we chose 53. And that song, non-speakers, they feel the presence of God at the time when we're singing these songs. And she said that. She said, she was just sitting there crying, and because she could feel the Spirit of God just come over her, and it was really with all of us. And when we do sing those songs, you know, it's not just let's sing a song, let's just sing a song. No, right. You know, when we sing, they're sacred songs, and so, you know, it's just it's touching, it's heartwarming, it's something that, you know, it means so much to us, but it can relate to those people that are non-speakers too, because they feel the presence of God in those songs.
And it's also a removal song too.
Yeah, it is a removal song. Yeah. 53 is. Yeah. And so I guess that's why I really like that one, you know, because I know that it too touches, you know, hearts and people. As we sing these songs, it's just a reminder of what our ancestors went through, and you know, what they could sing about. And a lot of it was death. A lot of it was, you know, just take me home. A lot of it was, you know, I'll just
they welcome death in that song too. Yeah. And then it's the fact
give me Christ or else I die.
That's all they wanted, because they had nothing else. And then in that song it says the material things, the money, the material things at that time didn't mean a thing to them, and it still doesn't in many ways. It's nice to have, but you know, at that time they didn't have anything. So that's why they could welcome death.
Was Choctaw your first language, Paula?
Yes. I didn't even speak English until I was 6 years old.
Amazing.
That's all we spoke was the Choctaw language. And the language is still alive, and our second speakers are doing very well. First speakers, you know, so many passed away during the COVID, but we have our second speakers we have in our language department many. One was there today that is in the language department.
That's great.
Yes, and he
can speak fluent now.
Fluent now.
That's amazing.
Yes. He's teaching us too.
That's right.
He does TikToks and stuff. So I said, keep it up, Josh. Keep it up.
We can all learn from that.
Exactly.
So, do you also write the written language as well?
I write too. Yes.
What was it like singing Choctaw hymns when you were younger?
When I was younger, it was just like a normal thing, you know, natural thing, just to hear it. And the church that we went to was way out in the woods, about 17 miles from here at Cairo. And of course, I was just a little girl then, but we could hear our elders inside that church house singing, and we could hear it through the woods. It was beautiful. And at the time, it was like, you know, nothing to it. Just, you know, we were kids.
Right.
And but how did we even later in the years remember those? And several of the ones that we played with, they could say the same thing. Right. We could hear them singing through the woods.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. It really was. And we remember that, and that's probably the core of why we love our hymns today.
The hymns you know today obviously were passed down from the folks that came over from Mississippi.
Yes.
So those survivors, the few survivors that came over in the whole scheme of things.
That's right.
They passed that down, and it kept passed. So what you're singing today,
is from
that's amazing.
Our ancestors, yes.
Let's take a quick break to hear a portion of the hymns again. Church like then? I assume it was quite like a community, as Mary describes in her interview, right?
Well, the only church that we really went to was Lone Star, which is 17 miles out in the country. There was no water, and we had to take a bath in the stream. And they did bring some water in big tanks from the city out there, but that's all the water we had. the inconveniences didn't seem to bother us at all. We had outhouses and we stayed there a couple of weeks at a time. We all camped out and out in the woods with no convenience whatsoever. How did we do that? My goodness, we had coal oil lamps and we didn't have any electricity. And how we survived out there those 2 weeks, well, it was almost the same way in our homes too. We didn't have any conveniences in our homes. So it just really didn't matter outside the fact that we slept under the trees. They would get us a little quilt under a tree, and that was our bed. And I often wondered, what about the insects and ticks and ants? No one ever got any bites of any kind. And they would just bed us down under the trees, and some slept inside the church house, and everywhere else in the camps. But most of the kids, we didn't care if we slept on the ground.
Yeah. They still have church out there today.
Really?
They're one of their, the pillar of that church, she passed 6 months ago.
About 6 months ago.
So I don't know how they're doing it now without her. She was the pillar of that church.
Right.
And the camp houses are still out there.
There's
and
two.
The church.
Is there two?
Two.
There's two.
Two left.
Yep, two left.
And the cemetery's out there for all the...
So y'all would stay out there. I don't know when they built the camp houses, but y'all would stay out there with, at least they had those.
Yes.
And it was each family that had one?
Each family.
Because I know Christine used to have hers, and there was another
and
one.
the Coles.
And the Coles. And they would have their own camp out. I thought that was kind of neat, too. And everybody would cook in there, and I remember going out there, too, when I was a kid. And we'd go to church out there, and I later on, when I had my kids, they'd have Bible school, and I'd send my kids out there. They loved it. At that time, when I sent my kids, they would have also revival at the same time. Okay. So they were the members were there all day long, and they would cook for the kids and everything, and they'd have supper there, and we would go for the revival in the evening.
I wonder how far back the history of that campground area goes.
It had to be. Gosh. More than 100 years.
And remind me, you may have said earlier where you think that area is.
It's Lone Star.
Lone Star.
Okay. From here, 17 miles from here.
Gotcha.
And it's still there.
Oh,
yeah.
I need to go out there.
The cemetery is there. And Round Lake, they also have cemetery there.
3 are Cumberland Presbyterian churches. And my understanding is that in Mississippi, our homeland, the first any kind of religious group came out, there was the Catholic Church and then the Presbyterian. Still at Pearl River, the largest one in Mississippi, those churches are still there, Presbyterian and Catholic. Yes. Wow. And the Baptists now. So the Choctaw people, just went to their churches after a while.
Stay tuned for part 2 of this series.
Thanks for listening to Native Chalk Talk. Be sure to join our community on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and check us out at nativechalktalk.com. Stay tuned for the next episode. You're going to love it. Yakoki. Thank you, my friends.